Hey guys, um, I have decided to do a bookshelf tour, and I want to do it to sort of see how the books on my shelf change as I continue with this channel, and kind of so I'm really selective about the books that I keep on my shelf. I only really keep books that either meant something to me, currently mean something to me, or obviously books that I really love, but also books that I feel like I will reread at some point. Because one of my kind of markers for what I think of as a great book is a book that when I finish it, I feel like I will definitely need to reread it. And also, I want to say a few words about each book because obviously these are all books that I've really liked and have a lot to say about. Um, so basically, this is sort of just an excuse for me to talk about books that I like, I guess, and to show people my bookshelves. Um, so yeah, I will give you a nice zoomed out view of my bookshelves to start with. Um, so I hope that's okay. Yeah. So I'll move in a bit closer. Here in the top, we have fiction. That is fiction. Down here, we move on to there's one fiction book here because there wasn't enough room on the top. Then we have poetry, and we have my tiny little drama section of 3 books. And we have my little memoir section of 4 books, and then we start right there with my general nonfiction, which continues down here. Um, so yeah, I am gonna film the rest of the video from this. Oh, also, I have those books back there. Those are my religion books. Those are a lot of kind of sacred texts from different religions. I have the Bibles over there, the Tao Te Ching, the Bhagavad Gita, among others. So I am going to divide this bookshelf tour into sections. I'm gonna do half my fiction today and half another day. I won't be able to do it tomorrow because I'm going to be in Utah tomorrow. But I'm not sure if I'll divide poetry or nonfiction into different sections. But I think I'll do my drama section and memoir. I'll combine those into one video since there's not very many of either of them. Uh, but we'll have to see how nonfiction and poetry go. So, yeah, I'll get right to talking about these books. Um, First one is a book I have reviewed. I will link my review to it below, but it's 3 novels by Samuel Beckett. Um, Really interesting modernist trilogy written in a sort of stream of consciousness style. Definitely worth the read. I'll leave my links below, though. Um, my links to my review below, I should say. Um, Next is a book that gets a lot of attention, a lot of love on BookTube, and it's Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I read this for the first time in high school, and it blew me away. I couldn't help at the time I couldn't help comparing it at the time to Twilight and contrasting it with Twilight. It also kind of has crazy, kind of unhealthy relationships, but I felt like at the time they were dealt with so much more in so much more interesting, compelling way, and I felt like the ending of this book was a lot more satisfying than Twilight, certainly. And I don't think about that often anymore because I don't think about Twilight much at all because I don't really like Twilight. But I need to reread this. I haven't read it in I want to say 6 years. So yeah, I really like this. And unfortunately, I can't say too much in depth because, again, I haven't read it in many years, so I actually don't remember a lot of what happens in it. Next is another book that I think occasionally gets attention on BookTube, and that's The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I'm really into theological themes, religion, and philosophy, and so this seemed like a novel that was right up my alley, and it definitely was. For anyone who doesn't know, it's the story of a man named Fyodor Karamazov and his 3 sons born of his marriages, and then his 1 bastard son, who also works as his sort of a servant in his household. And it's kind of the story of his oldest son who wants to get his inheritance from his father, but his father doesn't want to give him his inheritance. That's sort of the source of the main conflict of the book. And yeah, it explores themes of the existence of God, of morality, free will, all that good stuff. Definitely like this. And I read it last year, and definitely I'll need to reread it. And I will probably want to do a review on it when I read it. So hopefully that will come sometime in the future. Next book is more Dostoevsky, the book I've posted a review of, Crime and Punishment. This copy is kind of battered and beaten up because I got it from a friend, but I posted a review of this, so I won't say much about it. I'll link my review below, though. Next one is a bit of an oddity on my shelf. It's not a genre I read much, but I really like the Vlogbrothers channel, and so inevitably I got interested in John Green's fiction. So the first book I read by him was The Fault in Our Stars, naturally, and it was okay. I wasn't blown away by it like I thought I would be. I don't know, people talk about how they cried when they read it, and I just sort of was like, yeah, I mean, it's sad, but I certainly didn't cry. But I read this, Looking for Alaska, and I was really touched by it. Again, I don't know how much longer this will be here. I don't know if I'll ever be compelled to reread it, even though it definitely touched me at the time I read it. Yeah, so this is here. I don't need to really introduce it. It's been talked about so much that I probably don't need to say much about it. So yeah, but that's there. Next one is another pretty popular author of classics, and it's The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. I also read this in high school for the first time in my English class, and then I read it for the second time last year, and it really held up. I still really loved it. I was underlining. Oh, no, I wasn't underlining. Oh, I was. Okay, this just faded. I was underlining and making comments in the margin on this. It's a story of an old fisherman. It takes place in the Caribbean somewhere, and it's the story of an old fisherman who is kind of made fun of by other fishermen in the town he's living in, and he kind of decides to go on this one last big fishing trip where he catches this huge marlin, and yeah, it's just a cool story. I really enjoy it. The themes aren't the most resonant with me, but I still really love the book. Yeah. And the next one is one I have brought onto a video before, and it is The Library of Latin Literature, with 4 books translated by Rolfe Humphreys. And I grabbed this from my grandpa's house when he was moving out, and he let me pillage his bookshelves. And I mainly grabbed it for Ovid's Metamorphoses and Virgil's Aeneid, which I read this year, and I talked about. But also in here are the satires by Juvenal and The Art of Love by Ovid, which I don't feel that compelled to read, at least at the moment, but if anyone wants to leave a comment to convince me, then I would be open to that. But yeah, there's that. Next is Beowulf. This is translated with an introduction by Bernard F. Huppé, who taught at SUNY Binghamton, Binghamton University, the part of the State University of New York system. And I believe he was a colleague of my grandfather. My grandfather was an English professor. He specialized in modern drama, and especially George Bernard Shaw and Samuel Beckett. But this is, I believe, a colleague of his who did this translation of Beowulf. And I can't speak to the quality of the translation, although I really liked it. But his introduction really gave me, I feel like, a nice grounding in the themes of this book. And I think I would not have gotten as much out of it if it weren't for that introduction. Yeah, so if you find this translation, then I definitely recommend it. Yeah. Next is a pretty big book. Big in terms of size and in terms of people talking about it and its importance, and that's Moby Dick. I was blown away by this book. The first 150 pages are really fun. The last 150 pages are stunning. The middle sections with all the kind of info dumps about, about whaling and whales and stuff like that, they can get boring, but I actually found some of it interesting. Like, for example, Melville talks about how they stripped the fat off the body of the whales, and how they kind of used a hook. They hooked a little section and then kind of reeled it up and up and up until they got a nice kind of strip off, and then kept kind of rolling the whale around, and there had to be a man kind of standing on the whale's carcass in the outside the boat, ship, and kind of rolling it around, and I thought that was really cool. But I was blown away by the end of this. I will need to reread it, and I will be happy, and I will be really excited to do a real review of it. So yeah, Moby Dick. Next is one I talked about in my slow reads tag, and that's Housekeeping by Marilynne Robinson. I'll link my slow reads tag below, and you can see what I have to say about that book there. Next one is another kind of favorite classic on BookTube, The Catcher in the Rye, which I read and really liked as a teenager. I maybe wasn't blown away as many as other teenagers were, but I really liked it, and I reread it last year and still liked it. Although Steve Donahue did talk about Catcher in the Rye the other day and was sort of like, yeah, it might not be the most well-written classic ever, but and when he said that, I just, like, my initial gut reaction was, yeah, I would believe that. So the fact that I kind of reacted that way makes me think that maybe this won't be here for that much longer. But I don't know. I do like this book. So for that reason, it's still here. But we'll see. And finally is a big book that I don't believe I've seen talked about on BookTube. Whenever I say that I haven't seen a book talked about on BookTube, I always feel bad because, like, it's not like my viewing of BookTube is comprehensive. But I'm basically just talking about the videos that I've watched. But I haven't seen any videos on this book or any hauls of this book or whatever. And that's the Kalevala. This is the national epic of Finland. It's kind of a compilation of sort of folk tales, poems, songs that Elias Lönnrot put together in the 1800s. And I came to it because it was a big influence on Tolkien. And I love Tolkien. And yeah, and you can definitely see the influence there, but it's good. Of course, it's good in its own right. So there are wizards here. There are battles between bards with who can play the best music. There's war. There's incest. There's really compelling stories. There's a magical object that people fight over, just like they fought over the ring in The Lord of the Rings. But yeah, this was really good. I really like this, and it's nice and long. I definitely recommend this if you're into kind of old epics or into classics. So yeah, this was a good one. And so that is the halfway point in my fiction section, so I will stop there. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye!